ultimately, you're actually going to be doing a business development role for the first few months until you can get to a point whereby we look to get you a BDA. But even if you've got a BDA, until you're busy, there's no reason for me as to why you aren't trying to generate business and generate more meetings. Even if you've got a BDA and if he's putting or she's putting 1 or 2 meetings in your diary each week, right, that's 2 hours. You've probably not got a lot of clients, so even if you've got a couple of clients, that's a couple of hours reviews. Bit of fee, but there's 20, 30 hours that we can make ourselves be busy and kid ourselves almost, and it's the classic busy fool sort of approach where you tell yourself you're being busy. Reality is, if you want to make money, you need to be actually busy, and actually busy is seeing meetings. So there's lots of different areas for me that we can use for prospecting. So Karim's in my team, Alex worked very closely with as well. We've tried different areas, now they've been here a while. So in terms of, from a networking perspective, Karim's been over here a while. He's got a network. A lot of people are relatively new to the UAE. Who's worked in the UAE before coming over here? Just a couple of you, yeah. So you've got networks, but for most people you don't have that, or you might have the odd person you know. So that's something that will come over time, really. We've also got things like social media marketing, advertising, and that's something Alex is doing. But again, that comes with a cost. And when you're first moving over here, it can be quite expensive to then go, right, I'm going to then spend another £1,000 a month on prospecting. You're right there, Carl?
Yeah.
So the cheapest way, and I think ultimately a lot of it does come down to that when you first move over, is to look at the cold calling element. You're right, mate?
Yeah.
So, yeah, cold calling is something that, especially over here, it doesn't actually have as great a stigma as what it does in other places. I mean, anyone who owns a property at the moment, new year, every real estate agent is going to be calling people up. My missus' boss, he owns a place on the Palm. I think first weekend of this year, he had 9 calls, all from different real estate agents. So actually, when they get a call from De Vere, they're not, yes, they've had a lot of cold calls before, but it's not just like, oh, it's you guys again. Because they're getting it from AHR downstairs, they're getting it from Skybound over the road, whoever it may be, plus their banks, plus every Tom, Dick and Harry. So it works over here, it does work. But that's why we've got to look to be different when we are making those calls. Especially when you first start, you need to try and get a little bit of an idea in your head when you're going to be speaking to people, what your USP is. What's going to differentiate you from the people that are calling them before. So whether that being your background, trying to get that into a call. So for example, Lewis, Paralympic athlete, you want to get that in a little bit because it actually makes you different. They're interested in having a conversation. If you go, oh look, I've come over here, I'm relatively new. I've actually come from a sporting background. I'm actually a Paralympic athlete, and that's why they've kind of brought me in to help with the community where people, I don't know what the technical phrase will be as I'm on camera, Lewis. I'll leave that to you when you're pitching.
People of determination. Pods.
That's the one. Exactly what Lewis said. But it gives him a little bit of a USP. So even if someone isn't a person of determination or don't have a family member or know anything, you're going to go, but I respect this person. He sounds interesting. It's a little bit different. Again, what we've done with Karim is we've looked at it and said, so many people of Arab nationalities over here get cold calls of British people. And they're probably going, do you know what, I want to sit down with someone, but I'm just getting the same person ringing me saying the same thing. So again, we're trying to get into his pitches. Look, actually, again, being relatively new to the industry, but I've been brought over so that I can start working with people of an Egyptian, Jordanian, Lebanese background. We're actually expanding a unit here. So we're making that sound, again, like they're special being contacted. So again, it doesn't matter what specifically your background is. If you've got a banking background, for example, or try and give something a little bit of a spiel. But also when you are talking to people on the phone, LinkedIn is massive for me. And I think that can make or break your opportunity to be calling someone. And to get them in. Who's got LinkedIn Premium or Sales Navigator? So for me, I'd recommend Sales Navigator. I'll make some notes as I go through here. So Sales Navigator, and if you've not used it before, you get a 1 month free trial. So it's well worth using. And what it does, it enhances your searches, but also it gives you, I think, off the top of my head, 50 in-mails per month. So again, this is something that if you're not massively comfortable, or if you've not done a lot of cold calling experience before, this would be something that I would utilise. You have to have these people washed on your system before you send them an email, but that allows you to directly message 50 people that are outside of your network. What I've tended to find is that a lot of people who have been here a while are far more receptive. I'm not saying that we're going to get, you send 50 messages out and you're going to get 10 meetings even. But I would say you'll get 2 or 3 meetings, depending on the quality of the message, that will sit. I mean, I've got a meeting this afternoon with a guy, been here, I think 20 odd years, about his national insurance. Spoke to him before Christmas, he responded to an email, and then going out to see him this afternoon. And then he spoke to me, when I spoke to him on the phone, he goes, oh, actually, Chris, I want to discuss X, Y, and Z as well. So because he's looked at my profile and he's seen an email, he feels it's his choice to choose that meeting rather than Sargent or Tyler cold calling him. So that again works well. He's actually said, oh yeah, can I bring my CEO along as well? Great. So I'm not going to say no to that bit, but that will help as well. And I think for people that have been here a while, because you look at the notes sometimes on CRM, and they might have 100 notes, and you go, oh God, they're just going to tell me to get lost very quickly. Will help to do that. But again, it's targeting the right people. And so much it is targeting. So what you can also do with Sales Navigator is it's got a lot of different filters. So what I tend to look to do is, well, I look to what are my strengths. So now that I've been doing it quite some time, I can look at my clients and see that I've got certain different client bases, but there seems to be certain correlations. So, for example, relatively good with people over 50. Some people aren't. Some people actually, their average will be, and you can actually look on call once you've been doing it a while, you can see what your average age of your client base is. So that's what we're saying to people now, to actually start utilising it, and what Nigel's trying to bring in with the technology is to help us with that. So I know that I've got relatively older client base. That being said, I also know that I've got a far better chance with someone from the north of England. North of England and Scotland, I know I've got a better chance with than somebody who's from Surrey, let's say. No offence to anyone from Surrey or Alex from Kent at the back. But the reality is that if I saw a northern person, I'm going to have a better chance than if Dan Barron goes seeing him. Naturally, because we're going to have more in common. And vice versa, if Dan saw somebody from down south, someone who worked for Ford at Dagenham, he's going to have a far better chance being 10 minutes down the road. So you can look at these filters, and I look for things like, I will do schools and universities, so you can put on places where people are educated. You can also, though, put keywords. So, for example, and I'll get Rian to send it round, we've got a list that we made. Basically, it's got every major town in the UK, and then it's got the surrounding smaller towns. So, for example, me being from East Yorkshire, it's got Hull, but then it's got Beverley, Driffield, Market Wheaton, Pocklington, etc. So you can put those as keywords into the search, and what you have to do if you're doing multiple keywords is if you put in, let's say, X, then it's got to be or in capital letters, like that. Otherwise, then the search doesn't work. But if you want to have, let's say, Leeds or Manchester, but it's got to be capital letters. If you actually want to have 2 filters almost working simultaneously, and we want to have people who've got Leeds and Manchester, then and capital letters. So space, apostrophes and apostrophes, space, Y. So that again will help you manage to build a list of people you want to speak to. Now, reality is that just because we've found them doesn't mean we can go out and call them straight away. So, but what we have now got, and it's something that should be utilised, is the ability to access what we call the pool. So any name that's been in the system before, we can actually then, if it's not currently allocated, then it's as unassigned, you can send a list of names to Al Francis, and then he'll send those names back to you, whatever is unassigned currently, and then assign them to you, hence making you be able to contact them. So for me, I always look at it and actually say, well, if we're looking at from a funnel perspective, the effort we put in at the start is going to make our life easier. So if we're going to put on a load of people that you feel you've got something in common with, or there's a reason for you to be calling them, then it's going to increase your chances of actually turning that into business. So again, we can look at things like geographical, where people are from there, or what their links are to universities. You can also do current and past companies. So for example, when we go into things like pensions more often in future, if you get some news about the BP pension scheme, then we can look at a load of people who've worked for BP previously, and then if we can get their contact details, then it's a very simple pitch. Look, it's Chris from DeVere. I'm just reaching out to former BP employees. I can see from your LinkedIn you worked up in Aberdeen from 2007 to 2012. Is that correct? Yeah, it is. Again, that call, if I've cold called someone, they're actually a little bit more intrigued, because they're going, well, you've done your research. You're actually not just cold calling me going, hi, it's Chris from DeVere. Are you an English expat? Have you ever worked in the UK? I'm telling them that I've already done my research. I know they've worked for BP. I know where they worked. It makes them feel a little bit more special than a generic cold call. So again, try and utilise the information. What you'll also see as well, and from a rapport perspective, and I don't know if we've got a session on rapport on the course. If not, I'm sure we'll get one put in. But utilise again these bits. So even if you don't want to go explicitly, oh yeah, I've been staring at your LinkedIn, ask questions that are slightly more loaded. Right? I used to do, if I wasn't going to say, oh yeah, I can see that you're from this town, go, oh yeah, your accent sounds relatively similar. Whereabouts are you from? Oh, I'm from Leeds. Oh, I'm from East Yorkshire myself. And then you're having a conversation like that. Sargent, my BDA though, so he's a Kenyan national, but went to university in Nottingham. So when he started, and I sat second last night for a couple, fortunately, from my area that then moved to Nottingham. So he found them on a Nottingham search, pitched him saying, oh yeah, I can see that you worked in Nottingham for a lot of years. They got the rapport like that, we put them in, and then they'll go on to do further business. But again, had he not potentially utilised the information that was in front of him, then you're doing yourself a slight injustice. So, but also you can look at it. Sometimes even people have got a picture on LinkedIn that will be them running, for example. You can spin something at the start. Oh, how was your weekend? Yeah, and if they go, oh yeah, how are you? Go, well, just trying to get back into my running actually. I don't know if you're into it yourself. You know full well they're into it because you've seen it on their LinkedIn. But they might be more inclined to speak to you. So there's lots of information. And the beauty of LinkedIn as well is it is a public forum. So nobody can actually go, how did you know that? Well, you go, look, actually, I spend a lot of time. I don't just cold call 100 people off a list. I only really tend to call 10 to 15 people a day that I can see value in contacting. Obviously, you put this information on LinkedIn. It is an open public forum, and I'd rather utilise that to ensure that I'm not wasting your time and you're not wasting mine, because I do believe there's value in this call. Yeah, little tricks like that. All right, we are going to actually be calling 100 people a day, or when we first start, but we're trying to make them feel special. People don't want to be just a number, and I think that's what it takes a bit of time to get that balance, and once you've been doing it a while, reality is you actually get BDA and then you're not going to be doing it, but then you can teach this to those guys. But being able to get the speed of dialing and being able to effectively just skim read a LinkedIn profile to refresh yourself. But if you've dug those names originally and you've found those profiles, really everyone on your CRM, there should be a reason for contacting them. So I think for me, we'll probably need a different session actually on the pitch at some time, where I can print off a pitch and show you, and talk you through the key elements. But the reality is that I don't think generic works anymore. So we've got to try and up it. In the same way, if you're going into a meeting, you've got to have that rapport level there. Try and get it in on the phone, because the advantage you have got is swerve rates that you get for a BDA will range, especially when they first start. Hi mate, you okay? No worries. Swerve rates for a BDA are relatively high, especially when they first start. Like a new BDA, you get someone fresh off the course. If they book 4 in a week, you might be lucky to sit 1. Now, reality is, when you're booking for yourself, the sit rate is always much higher, because it's a lot harder to swerve you. Like if Lewis has booked me in, told me about where he's from, told me about his family, and he knows what we're going to talk about in this meeting, I'd feel it's a lot harder for me to go, do you know what, I can't be bothered seeing you today. Whereas on a BDA, they don't know who Lewis is. Like if Joe Bloggs has booked Lewis a meeting, it's very easy for me to go, oh well, do you know what, I'm a bit busy today. When you book meetings in yourself, the sit rate is a lot higher. And I think people buy into that more. They are actually probably fed up to a slight extent of people saying, oh, I'm calling on behalf of. They do prefer it, and we've had it where you've booked people in where, because they know you're going to actually sit with you, rather than, oh yeah, I've had a great chat with you, I'm just going to pass you on to someone you've never spoke to before. So we do need to try and utilise that. But from a numbers perspective, there is a funnel, and it comes from effectively, if we look at it, so you've got the data that we dig, and it's not a case of just digging 20, 30 names and then hoping, right, that's going to turn into business. Because if you find, let's say, we'll go 200. So if we find 200 names, probably actually have to go bigger. Let's start with 500 to be realistic to start off with. So if we found 500 profiles, then from there we may be able to send off to our Francis, and let's say we get 250 back. Now from that 250, then we might be able to get, at this moment in time, let's say 5 bookings. We might be able to get more. Let's go actually higher, because they're people that we want to speak to. But obviously some of these numbers as well, again, managing expectations. If you found a profile, it might be in the pool, but it could be an old number. So it's not a magic recipe. Ultimately, things like data sources, again, we can go into another time, we'll be able to help that. But let's say we book 10 meetings. We're then going to sit 5. We might then get a seconds out of 3, so additionals. We might then get that one meeting that signs up. But that's the process. So it's not a case of, right, let's look at it, and just go, right, there you go, I'm going to give you a 4 or 5 grand deal. But reality is, if you've got an average case size, let's say a £3,500, then what we've got to do is do those stages, and then you can make 3.5 grand. But if you dig 100 names, chances are then we get 50 on the system, etc., etc. Your chances go down. So, but you've got the time within your day. Realistically, people aren't sitting meeting, like you're not sitting a lot of meetings at the start. So you can put these things in place. There is certain scraping tools that you can utilise. But for me, I mean, the hard work side of things is better because you know what the right sort of profile is, rather than just putting in, let's say, leads, and then we get a load of people in real estate or recruitment that are more commission-based jobs. Then we've got the wrong sort of people to be targeting. But that's what we're going to ultimately have to do, and it all comes from what we get at the top. Now, this is using it, like I say, from using pool data. Of course, and doing the cold calling approach, there is different variables. So if we are out networking, you're not going to need to network 500 people to get one deal. It's going to be a lot smaller. The in-mail side of things, again, once we've got that here, I think if we would, the ratios there, I mean, if you sent 250 emails, I think you'd be looking closer to 30 meetings, of which 25 would sit. So again, that will help on that side. So that will boost you up. But what you've got to be trying to do effectively is look at it and go, right, how can I get my business, where's my business going to come from? So it might be at the start that we have got cold calls as 50% of your meetings. We might get emails for a proportion. We might be able to network some for, like, do it that way to start off with. So we've got different facets really for how we're going to generate the business. But right now, it isn't the most fun activity, but the cold calling side will work, and it's something that, as a company, really, it's the most cost-effective way. If one of you goes, right, do you know what, I'm not going to cold call, but I've got 10,000 quid that I want to spend on adverts, great, okay. But unless you're in that position that you're going, right, I'm going to take that gamble, how are we going to get in front of people without doing the dirty work? And the way I look at it, though, as well, is if you were setting up any company, you're going to have to do some form of business development. If you set up a company up in the UK, to give yourself a chance of making £100,000 profit in your first year, you'd be working every hour under the sun. It's very rare that companies, like, you go and watch Dragon's Den and they go, oh yeah, we're turning over £1 million. Yeah, what's your profit levels? Oh yeah, we're 300 grand down in the last 2 years. At Devere, actually, that won't happen. But the way it works is, yeah, we've got certain costs, smaller costs, but if you put 100 grand on the board, you might have invested in with BDAs maximum of 20% of that, but you're still clearing 80 grand in your own pocket. But again, that's going to come from the hard work and putting the hard yards in. A few little bits as well, just in terms of when you are booking meetings. For me, try and get that meeting in as soon as possible. So when you are having the chat with them, don't let them control it. So actually say, look, what day are we on today? Tuesday, look, so we've had a conversation today. There's clearly these areas that we want to talk about. You want to talk about your own personal retirement planning, your UK national insurance, and getting a valuation on your old UK pension. Now, I tend to work on a 24 to 48 hour turnaround while it's fresh in your mind and fresh in mine. What's good for you tomorrow or Thursday? If you go for that, they might go, do you know what, Chris, I'm absolutely hectic tomorrow and Thursday. When do we get the meeting? Friday afternoon, when they're a bit more casual. If we go, oh, how's your diary looking over this week, next week, bit flimsy, before you know it, it's booked in for next Friday at 2 o'clock. It's then going to swerve because you're 10 days away from the meeting. You've done the hard work, and then you've sort of let it go towards the end. And don't be afraid as well to take those risks. It's like when you're trying to close someone. If they're not interested, if they're going to swerve, if you try and get it in that 48 hours and they're really flaky, they're going to be flaky whether you book it in 2 weeks. Reality is, putting meetings on the board and going to your manager, oh yeah, I've booked a meeting, great, but if it's 3 weeks at time, is it going to sit as much? So try and have that in your head. Like, ultimately what we care about is this: new clients, which obviously provides an income stream for people. Tricky one, really, where I think it's about weighing it up for yourselves. And if you have booked the meetings yourself and you are confident it's a good meeting, try and get face-to-face meetings. I think especially for, well, a lot of people pre-COVID, most of us have done face-to-face business over the years. I know, Karim, that was what pre-COVID, that was what you were doing on day-to-day. You know how to do it. I'm sure all of you guys have done face-to-face meetings previously. It is a lot more, people are going to buy into it a lot more than a Zoom call. What you have though got to do is work out the efficiency of your time. i.e., if you get one meeting down in Abu Dhabi, you've booked someone and they're in Abu Dhabi, personally I would say offer an introductory Zoom call. You can suss them out, spend 30 minutes with them, work out exactly what's going on. Because otherwise, if you're not driving, especially in Abu Dhabi, you're looking at 100 quid in taxis, plus probably a full afternoon off work. Now you could get there, and again, I've done this in pre-COVID when I've took the gamble on the back of my BDA. I've got down there, and it's not the greatest of meetings. It's never, like, suddenly the guy's like, oh yeah, can we do it in a coffee shop? Can't get into my office, and it's just, you've wasted a load of time. Whereas actually, if I'd have done it on a Zoom call, I could have sussed it out. So I think the Abu Dhabi side of things, especially if it's Sharjah, Iraq, wherever it may be, choose your brain. If it is a 55-year-old British guy, let's say, who's saying, look, I've got 300 grand fixed deposit with HSBC maturing in 3 weeks' time, get yourself wherever it is. If it's Qatar, get on a plane. That's the reality. But if you do have a good meeting, like a really, really good one, and you're like, well, actually, is it worth it? Well, at some point, then you go to your manager, actually, I've got this really good meeting. Is there any chance BDAs could try and get me 2 or 3 meetings in to bulk that up? And again, most managers would back and support you, if not all managers on that. So, whilst maybe not straight away we're going to be flying to Saudi, Qatar, wherever, it is still something to have in your mind later on down the line. Yeah, so work emails as well. Massive thing to scam your swerve rates. If you are booking a meeting, ask them for their work email address. So many people, BDAs, get Hotmail email addresses. Very few people, if any, have got Hotmail attached to their calendar. So you send the meeting request over, you get to the day, oh, Chris, sorry, completely forgot about it, it didn't go in my calendar. Well, it didn't go in your calendar because we didn't ask you for what you run your calendar by. So if they go, some people will go, look, I don't want to give you my work email. In that scenario, okay, so what do you do your personal calendar by? A lot of people use Gmail for it, a lot of people use iCloud. Get that email address that they use their calendar and be assertive with them. Because otherwise, again, we've done the hard work, we've spent 15 minutes speaking with people to then go, oh yeah, sound, you're going to forget about it. So I think those are key little bits as well. Again, your emails on the back of it, send over a good email. I always try and send two things to the clients. I'll send the meeting request, because once you send the meeting request, if they accept that straight away, that actually drops out of your emails. So I'll then send a separate email where, again, I'll send it to you, Ree, what I send round. It's very simple, but it just gives a bit of background on me and the company. So I've just got a paragraph on me, then I've got one on WPS, which is one of our UK entities that are the corporate advisors to Tesco's, the BBC. Again, gives us a bit of credibility there. I then have one little paragraph on the Net Zero Alliance that we were part of. So I think it was at maybe even the Egypt one, COP26 or something. We signed part of the Financial Services Net Zero Alliance. I don't know how, but with the likes of Deloitte, KPMG, Bloomberg, S&P, Davia are on there. We signed it. So put a little paragraph there. Again, it makes people think, all right, yeah, I have been cold called, but this company that's cold called me, the UN think they're all right, the BBC think they're okay to deal with, going to reduce your chance of a swerve. And again, I use those things in my firsts. You want to bulk up your credibility throughout. I know even on the courses there's a lot of, oh yeah, we're the world's largest. It's a bit of a throwaway comment. If you're speaking to people, whether it's on your emails, whether it's on a cold call, etc., utilise those tools, but kind of wait to for when they're going to work to your full potential, really, rather than just saying at the start, oh yeah, we're the world's largest. So yeah, it's that process really for me. Again, so you booked the meeting, you sent the meeting request, you've sent them the email, reconfirming what the purpose of the meeting is. My call as well is that I will put in the title of the email, the title of the meeting request, what the purpose of that meeting is. So some people will put introduction to Devere. Introduction for me is a bit flimsy. Like if I've booked Karim in to sit down with him about planning for his child's education, if I put introduction to Devere and we're booked in for a few days away, when it's education planning for your child's future as the title, it makes it a little bit harder to swerve. So it might be UK National Insurance meeting, it might be UK pension review meeting, retirement planning meeting. Try and get that purpose into the meeting request. So when it does pop up and they're looking at the diary for the day, they're like, ah yeah, shit, we've got that to sort out little Susie's education at 3 p.m. Just try and get that in. And it's just trying to make it as smooth as possible. Once you've done that, my view, if I booked it myself, I would probably then just the day before, either, if it's a Zoom meeting, I actually don't say, are you still okay? I just say, I'm just checking you've got the link for our meeting. So then they're going, yeah, I have got the link, rather than, are you still all right for the meeting? Reduces the opportunity for them to swerve. Obviously, if you're coming out to them, you want to make sure that meeting's solid. So I would call them the day before, message just a couple of hours before that. So call them, yeah, right, we're all confirmed. And then I'll just go, hi Lewis, say the meeting's at 2. Just to let you know my diary's running on time. Looking forward to seeing you in DIFC at 2. No question, no statement. Just again, if for whatever reason they've forgotten about it because they are having a busy day, and we do all have them, you don't want to get all the way there, which a lot of us who've been in the game for a while have either booked people in and sent them down there, which we are very unhappy consultants, or you've been down there yourself and the meeting's just not turned up, or suddenly they've only got 5 minutes. So just managing that process on the way through. But yeah, for me, ultimately, when it comes to prospecting, what we would need to look at is trying to be effective. Whether it be time effective, cost effective, but if we can make sure we've got the right sort of people that we're trying to speak to, and there is a need for those meetings, again, once you're booking that person in, to be able to have that need, we don't want to be seeing general financial reviews. We want to be actually saying, look, right, I'm going in to talk to you about retirement planning, where we can do the retirement planning calculations. They want to talk about education, UK pensions, whatever it may be. So you can go prepared for that. Especially if you're booking that meeting in yourself. Otherwise, you're effectively just adding another meeting in. Because if you're on the phone to them, we can ask them enough questions to get that need. Otherwise, we're just going down to the IFC to sit down and basically carry on the phone conversation that we've had to establish, you're 40 now, you want to retire at 55, we need to look at a retirement plan. If we know that, then at least we can make that meeting a lot more effective. So, yeah, trying to make sure that we are aware that the hard graft comes at the top. We can all just go and get pool data and just say, right, can I have 500 names out the pool, and just rattle through them. I know people have said before, try and get things like meetings that have been booked and not sat. For me, meetings that have been booked and not sat, and everyone is different, is all I'm asking for is to get a load of people that are going to be flaky in future. If a good coordinator's booked that in and then got rid of it from their system, it's because they've cancelled, they keep cancelling, they're a time waster. I don't want to waste my time going to the start of the week and go, yeah, I've got 10 meetings on, gets to Friday, I've not sat anything, I'm demoralised. But it's maybe an easier way to get meetings on the board. Ultimately, what we want is this bit, and that's the end goal. So if we know that we want to speak to, we've discussed it, a senior Egyptian that works at Microsoft, well, let's go out and find one, see if we can get the number up, and then actually Karim's got a far better chance of not only booking that meeting, but signing them up. If Alex wants to speak to a Charlton fan, we can give ourselves a fair chance. If we look and find the 3 people that went to the same secondary school as him, no matter what years it was apart, Alex picks the phone up and calls them up and goes, look, I can see from your LinkedIn you actually went to X, Y and Z school. He's got half a chance of booking them in, even if it just ends up actually not even booking them in, but going out and meeting them for a beer or a coffee, and then building a network from there. They may introduce him to somebody else. So it's utilising those bits, but again, we've got to put the hard graft in at the start. Like I say, it's free though for the first month. I think after it is about 90 quid. But for me, what's that?
You said there about all your searches. Can you search by age?
So you can't search directly by your age, but you can do it via experience. So you can put 10 years plus experience, which I always do, because effectively it rules out anyone in the 20s. So,
Can you do what?
So if you put experience 10 years plus, then it means people have to have been working for 10 years or more. But yeah, a lot of it is playing about with it. I mean, one of the biggest deals that I did when I was a BDA, one of Dan's biggest clients, I did from just getting through a list of popular British first names from the 1970s, and found a guy, Doug. He had nothing on his LinkedIn apart from he worked for Standard Chartered for 28 years. And just said Dubai 28 years. Called him up, he had a pension worth £1 million. We managed to transfer it. I think at that stage about 35 grand's worth of business. But that again was from just thinking, right, how can I find some people that others might not be able to? But spending time eyeballing every person with Douglas, every person with Stephen, putting a few different filters along the way, but trying to do it like that. So what you're wanting to do is look and say, well, how can I find those sort of people? So if we know 1970s, that made them at the time mid-40s, 50, gives us a good chance. It's the right demographic. It is a good chance they've got a UK pension. So yeah, having a play about with that, but putting it into your day. So especially now, I would be saying, if you're not doing anything, you're either doing your power hours or you're digging data. So a lot of the guys, the BDAs, to start off the day, will get in, let's say, for 8 o'clock. If their first power hour is at 10, it's put a podcast on, avoid distractions. I mean, for you guys, you can put the podcast on, or alternatively, what I'd probably recommend is stick on like a training session that we've got on the portal. Someone like an Ian Ross or Reese's sessions. Just have that running on in the background, especially once you've been doing it a while. It'll just be a little bit of a refresher, but also you're avoiding distractions. Get on there, get your filters on, start having a look and building and compiling these names. If you send it to, I think the email address is Core Marina. Yeah. Is it core.marina or dash?
If you just put Core Marina, it comes up anyway.
So if you send it to Core Marina, then those guys, and what they ask for is batches of 50 at a time. So
I don't book meetings that way, actually.
Yeah.
I couldn't find. There's a guy actually. I'm going to sit at the end of the month to do a retirement plan with, and I do think he'll actually. That was just a core pick-up.
Yeah.
It was exactly the same thing as what you just said, because he's a gym owner. So
you've got a bit of rapport there, yeah. And that's to try and think about yourselves as well. And it's quite hard, but go like, well, what are my USPs, so to speak? I mean, if you look at football teams that you may support, rugby teams, etc., you can even then go and see if there is supporters clubs that on Facebook, where then you can go and find those profiles, and then we know the name. If you've got people who like, let's say, I don't know, the Dubai Villas Supporters Club, and they've got a Twitter page, because I've done this before with someone, and then you go through and you check how many of them are still in Dubai. Go and ask for those names from the pool. If you're a Villa fan, for example, then oh yeah, have you been watching? Did you watch football that weekend? Oh yeah, what was it? A 0-0, weren't they? Oh yeah, it wasn't great for my side. Drew 0-0. You can then go and get the meeting. They're going, oh, you're a Villa fan? Yeah, oh, so am I. So you might only get, again, 20 people, if you can find something like that, whether it's football, cricket, rugby, whatever it may be, general interests that you've got, have a little look. I mean, you could even, like, there's loads of people loving paddle at the moment. Go and have a look and see who likes club paddle on Facebook. If you can try and pick up some names of people who've liked those bits. Oh, how was your weekend? Yeah, I was just playing paddle, really. Oh, really? So was I. It gives you half a chance. But also, like, if the profile looks all right and you've got an area rapport, just warms it up. So yeah, trying to think cleverly. That's really the main bit for me. It's trying to be efficient with your calls. Because hopefully then, the better we can do now, these figures will increase it. That we're going to get more meetings in, and then more meetings sat. Again, the stronger your rapport, the stronger your meeting need is, the more chance that meeting's got of sitting, which is the key thing. Once that's then happened, all those other figures naturally increase. So, any major bits for me? Any questions at this moment in time?
The emails bit's interesting.
Yeah.
Because I used to, I thought about doing it that way, but then Bert was like, no, I never get any traction whatsoever, that, you know.
Do you know what happens with a lot of people, especially in this job, is they try things, and if it doesn't happen in the first 20, they stop doing it. I've had BDAs, and I've got it with a BDA in my team at the moment, who's adamant it doesn't work. I can show him my diary, and Karim knows exactly what I'm on about. I can show him my diary, and I can show him clients that I've got business from.
To be fair, I think I've got a good
it's not hard.
As well.
But because he's not had that bite yet, but it could be that you do 50, like I say, if you get the free trial for anyone who's not done it, send 50 out, you might get a nibble. For me, again, what I've tended to find historically is things where people are going to try and get some value. So I'm doing quite a lot at the moment on national insurance, with the national insurance deadline for people in the UK being extended to 2025 and how to backdate that. They feel like it's a bit of that FOMO, that fear of missing out. I've done it before when pension transfer values were extremely high. Did you know that BP are offering twice the industry average? People are going, oh, right, I want to try and find something out about that. So actually offering them something to nibble at, where they were going, yeah, can I find some more? I tend to find works a little bit more than, hi, my name is, which I have tried. I mean, I got one last week where I just sent an email around to people saying, about New Year's resolutions. Is your New Year's resolution going to be that you're trying to improve your finances? I can help with this, this and this. And I had a 60-year-old who's been here 28 years messaging me back, just going, hi Chris, sorted my pension, sorted my national insurance, but I could be interested in having a chat to you about tax planning. So it does work, but again, it's numbers. It's exactly the same as all of this. But yeah, I would recommend trying a few different things. You've got nothing to lose. The way I look at it, whether it's a cold call, whether it's an email, if we sat on our arse in the office, your bank balance at 10 o'clock this morning is the same at 11 o'clock if we do nothing. If we get told to fuck off for an hour, bank balance doesn't change. However, if we then actually get a couple of meetings, we've not cost us anything, and we potentially increased our earning potential. But it's just putting yourself out there. It is the hardest bit. The way I tend to look at it when you are getting started is, it's almost like on that World's Strongest Man where they're trying to pull the lorry. The first bit is the hardest bit, getting those wheels turning. Once you've got that, suddenly this client here that we've got on really well with, you sit down with them and go, do you know what, to be honest with you, as I told you, I've only been here 6 months. Is there any chance that you could introduce me to a couple of people in your network? I know we've got on really well, even if it's just going out for a beer on a Tuesday night, maybe doing a pub quiz. Would you be able to bring a couple of mates? I'll get the first round. That person, if you found them and you've got the areas of rapport, is far more likely to go, yeah, do you know what? I'd be up for that. I'm sure I can get a couple of lads to come down, or a couple of girls to come to a cheese and wine night, whatever it may be that you're trying. So again, if you get the right people at the start, it's going to help you with the referrals, which then makes life a lot easier. Once you've then built up that client base, we're not just having to rely on cold, but if you can get a couple of really good guys and bed that into them, and get them on side, look, I'm trying to build my business up over here, is there anyone you can introduce me to? Again, if they say no, not lost anything. Most people, and Reece is a big advocate of it as well, is say, look, if I can I get some help from you to build my business? Noel said it in the training the other day. If you ask someone for help, most people will try and help you, even if not to the level we're looking for, to some level. They might not go, oh yeah, here's my entire phone book, but, well, I'll tell you what, you had it the other day with Peter, who went, I'm not going to give you his number, but I can tell you what his name is, you reach out to him in your own way. So he's at least trying to help Karim get going on that side of things. So yeah, the first bit is tough. Your first year, this is the same for when guys step up, is hard. But once you get going, then you've got your client base. You look back, and I was the same. It took me a couple of months, even having been a BDA, to write my first bit of business. I had 2 bits that I'd signed and then fell through. A lot of people have that. It's about getting through that hard bit. But like I say, you're setting a business up, you're setting your own entity up here. Yes, it's a visa that we're on, but reality is you're self-employed. So no one's going to go to you, oh yeah, do you want a pay rise? That's not how the game works. We're building our own business, so it's what you put in now will help you. So yeah, hopefully you've got a few bits from that. I think really the key bits, putting yourself out there, but remembering so much having that pride as well in self-pride and self-worth, especially when you have booked that meeting. Look, if I'm coming out to see you, I know this is in for Friday at 12 o'clock, some people used to say I run a Western diary, but where this meeting has to stick. Please can you give me 24 hours notice as a minimum if you're not able to attend that meeting? Be willing to put that out. Don't let people push you around.